Hello everyone, my name is Heather and welcome to the channel Bookables. Today I'm here to do another seasonal video. You guys know I'm a very big seasonal person. When it comes to reading, when it comes to fashion, movies, shows, anything, I am very seasonal. So, of course, with my seasonal preferences, I have books I like to read in the season. So, in summertime, I read a lot of romance, but I also read predominantly a lot of thrillers because I'm a big old scaredy cat. And when it's light outside later, I feel like I can handle thrillers a little bit better. That's just me. I have some favorite summer thrillers. Now, all these thrillers I'm talking about today either take place in the summertime, have that kind of beachy summer feel with thrillers, or they're just really great, I think, to read in summer. So we have a combination of both. So I have a big list. I've done this video several times, so a lot of these you're going to see are repeats, but you never know. Maybe I'll have some new viewers that will get a recommendation. I don't know, but we're just gonna go into it. First up, when it comes to summer thrillers, I always recommend The Night Swim by Megan Golden. Number one, you can tell how summery it is, like with the whole beach and everything. This book is a great one if you love podcasts and books. Now me, I don't listen to podcasts a lot because I have two kids. My kids control the radio, so it's mostly kids music or whatever my son's into at the moment. Right now, it's The Cure. I'm okay with that. However, I love reading books that have the podcast element, especially thriller. I think that translates well because thriller, podcasts, videos, all that are very popular with good reasons. So this book follows kind of two different timelines, if you will. We follow our main character, Rachel, who is the host of, you guessed it, a true crime podcast. If you say that 10 times fast, true crime podcast, it's just going to be mush mouth. Either way, she is at a very small town, this small kind of ocean town, because there has been the town's golden boy, this town she's at, that has been accused of sexual assault, and he is on trial for it, and so she's covering every day of the trial. While she's there, she gets a note in her windshield saying, hey, my sister died many moons ago, and everyone ruled it as an accidental drowning, but I know she was murdered. Can you help me solve it? And so it kind of goes on from there. We learned about this guy and how his trial is going, but we also learned about this girl's sister, if she really was murdered or not. It's a great one. This is part of a series. The second one I did read, Dark Corners. I would not recommend it. Night Swim is great. I think it's a good one and done one. It's a great summer thriller as it's set in a beachy town and it's got the podcast element into it. It's a great summer thriller. Just like The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. This is not one of my favorite Riley Sager books, but when I think of summer thrillers, I always think of this because it's set in a summer camp. Who would have thunk it that would be a summery setting? But either way, this one again kind of follows two timelines. We follow a character named Emma who now is a rising New York artist, but then she gets approached by the owner of Camp Nightingale, where she went for a couple summers when she was younger, when a grisly murder happened that shut down Camp Nightingale. So now the owner's trying to revitalize it, reopen it, and she really wants Emma to come to kind of show that we're new, we've changed, there won't be any murders there. And so Emma goes not only to just see what it's about, but also to uncover this murders that happened with her cabin mates, or was that right? What you said? Is that right how I said that? Years ago. If they disappeared, if they were murdered, who did it, how it happened, all that kind of jazz. This one again has a summery setting set in a summer camp, so if you want a good summer thriller, I would recommend checking this one out. We have the Southern Books Club Guide to Saying Vampires. I should probably get a new copy of this. This is an ARC and it's literally falling apart. I don't know why. But either way, this is Grady Hendrix's most summery book. He has some that I think are perfect to read in fall, but this one is perfect to read in summer. I mean, it's got peaches on the cover. This one's set in South Carolina, where most of his books are set, and it's set in the 90s, where all the neighborhoods are picturesque and you know, suburban. Nothing really happens. The whites do as they're told. And then one day, a random kind of weird guy moves into the suburb of this home, and the moms start to notice that maybe he's kind of different. He's drawing all these women towards him, but he's odd, and so they think maybe he could be a vampire, and it gets really dark and twisted from there. If you've read Grady Hendrix, they are horror, I will say, but I feel like if I can handle it, I think you can handle it. That's just me. But he does write a lot of like satirical horror where it's not outright scary. Some scenes are, but they're mostly kind of satirical in a way, but it also touches on like 90s and the suburban housewife, how they're not really meant to do anything. They're just meant to like raise children and cook dinner and rinse, wash, repeat. But I enjoyed this. It's not my favorite by him, but I still liked it a ton. And again, it's set like in the summer in Charleston. And if you live in the South, I live in Virginia, humidity sucks. Next up, we have a very, very fun one, and that is Killers of a Certain Age by Deanna Rayburn. I read this a couple years ago, loved it. This is basically Golden Girls meets like Assassins. It's just a fun time. This is about a whole bunch of women that are like in their 60s and they are retiring from their like assassin kind of world that they've all been in for a while. And so their company decides to send them on this amazing vacation and throw them like a last hurrah, and they're like, this is great. And then they learn that somebody is there to kill them. And so they have to go on a wild goose chase to figure out why their company wants to murder them, not celebrate them, and it kind of goes from there. They do many different adventures. They go to Italy at some point and they get in the catacombs and all that. It's just a fun summer thriller, in my opinion. I don't hear much about it because it's not like overly thrilling, I would say, but if you just want a fun one where it's Golden Girls kind of meets Assassins, I would recommend it. It's a great one that I don't hear talked about a lot, but I had a good time with it. I think if you don't read much into it, like it's not gonna rock your world or have insane plot twists, but it's just gonna be a fun time. I check it out. We have Dead 11 by Jimmy Giuliano. You should know that anytime a book has a VHS tape on the cover, just take my money. I grew up in the 90s. I was born in 1988. I grew up with VHS tapes, so to see them on book covers, I'm like, give me. This one, again, is kind of a podcast one. Ooh, I have several of those in this. So this one is also set in 1994, in the 90s, like my previous ones. And it's all about this island called Clifford Island, and a woman goes missing there. And basically, this is so hard to explain because it's told in such differentiating ways. You get the podcast, but you also get different people's perspectives, but you also don't know what time it quite is during this whole transaction of the book. But basically, it's about a woman named Willow disappears after she loses her son, and then her brother Harper, who's kind of like in this podcast game, he's gonna make a documentation about this, goes to the island for searching for answers, and he learns that there's something more sinister about this island. I'm sure you can guess, but either way, I feel like it's summery because it's set in this island and it's summertime. The island is very hush hush. The residents don't talk to outside residents. Nobody really knows about this island unless like you're in the know, if that makes any sense. But I really liked it. Again, it's one I don't hear talked about a ton. It is quite lengthy for the thriller. It's like over 400 pages. I'm not in love, but I did like it and would recommend it for a good summer thriller. If you want some deep dive killer sirens, I have got a book for you. And Then Drowning Deep by Myra Grant is superb. This one is a science fiction type of horror book. I think it's great to read in summer because killer sirens, ocean, summer, you get it. So this one follows a woman whose sister a long time ago went on this documentary crew, and they were going out to search for killer sirens. Her sister was a like news reporter for it, and then the ship never came back. Nobody knew what happened to it at all. It's a big mystery. Now, many years later, they're deciding, hey, let's go figure out what happened to this ship and if there really are killer sirens. So obviously this one girl that's a scientist wants to go because she wants to learn about killer sirens, yes, and learn about what happened to her sister. And it gets dark and creepy and scary, but man, it was great. It does get a little bit sci-fi jargony, especially when it comes to oceanography with sonar and things like that. But man, it was good. It was creepy. It made you not want to go into the ocean, which I don't do a lot because I respect it and the creatures that are in it. I don't want to disturb their home. Great one to read in summer. Maybe it's like reading, maybe it's like watching Jaws and never want to go in the ocean again. You can read this and maybe never want to like go in the ocean to see a siren, you know? Meanwhile, on a lighter note, we have Dial A For Aunties by Jessie Q. Santano. This is part of a series that I've still not read fully, and I'm beating myself up for it. This is all about a character named Madeline who ends up on a blind date, and it does not go so well, and so the guy ends up dead. She didn't kill him or anything. He just ends up dying. And she's like, oh my gosh, what do I do? How do I prove I didn't do this? Because everyone's going to think I did it, but I didn't. So of course she turns to her mom and her aunties. And so this whole weekend, because they're all in a wedding business, there's like one of them's a wedding photographer, a wedding singer, the florist, and the cake baker. And so they have a huge wedding to do. And so they have to hide this dead body. So it's got kind of like a Weekend at Bernie's feel to it, but thriller aspect. And then Madeline runs into her ex, and it's just a fun, book. This is a great one to take on the beach, just have a fun, laugh out loud time with mischief and antics, and I really enjoyed it. I have None of This Is True by Lisa Joel. This is one of my favorites by Lisa Joel. Again, this has a podcast kind of feel to it, and it even says, when a famous podcaster interviews a stranger promising to divulge the story of a lifetime, secrets emerge that threaten to expose the truth of the lives they both work hard to protect and project. So basically, it's about a character named Alex who is celebrating her 45th birthday at this pub, and then she runs into this girl named Josie in the same pub, and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm also 45. Oh my gosh, we both were born in the same hospital. And through a span of things, Alex is like, hey, let me interview you for my podcast. And Josie somehow gets webbed up and tangled into Alex's life and maybe even starts to take it over. It is just really weird and fun, and I really loved it. Lisa Joel is always a hit or miss author for me, but this one really hit when I read it last year, and I would recommend it, and I think it's a great summer thriller. The last book I want to talk about is First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. This one is very much like the show Alias. If you're a big fan of Alias by Jennifer Garner, this is the book for you. In this book, we have a character named Evie, and only, is she really Evie? Is she not? She is basically a person like Alias. I don't know what you would call them, but she's like a con artist, if you will. She just gets her assignments of who she's supposed to be, who her subject is, and she just kind of gets into that life. So right now in her life, she is with this guy named Ryan, and she's trying to figure out more about him and his job, and she never knows how long her job's going to last. So this one's very secret in the fact that you as a reader don't know what's going on. Who is Evie really? What's her real name? Like, how did she get this job impersonating other people, getting in people's lives and then leaving? Like, just getting literal different identities like multiple times a year. It's very intriguing for that regard, but I liked it. It's a fun time. I think it's not one to be taken too seriously, but I still really enjoyed it. There you have all of my favorite summer thrillers. I would love to know what thrillers you like to read in summer. Please leave them down below. I'm always looking for ones that have that kind of summery vibe to them. Of course, I'm reading some this summer, so I can't add them to this list now, but maybe they'll be in my video next year. As always, thank you so much for watching, and